What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, Jesus hot sauce Christmas cake, it's Desra.
Okay, and sitting across from me, of course, is Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we sit around, we blow the dust off an old PlayStation VR game, something from the archives, and we take another look at it. We play through it again. We see if it's worthy of your hard-earned money, see if the developers have given any love since release.
With the slight exception of October, in which case we change things up a little bit because we're talking about scary games.
October month.
Yay.
My favorite month. My favorite month of the month.
Yes.
Now, but the game that we're going to talk about this week has it's been out for a bit.
Yeah. Yep. So this week we're talking about The Inpatient.
The Inpatient by Supermassive Games.
Yep. The makers of Tumble VR.
Is that where we're going to stop that? Also, Rush of Blood.
Yes.
Also,
Until Dawn.
Bravo Team. Yeah, we could
yeah.
go down this whole rabbit hole. Like I know, like Michelle and I went down a bit of a rabbit hole when we did our Bravo Team episode, and then you and I did have a Rush of Blood episode at one point. But we could talk about Supermassive's fall from greatness, how they were a company that could do no wrong, and then eventually, like, you know, now their future's not in question, but like their future as far as VR games is in question.
Yes. Yeah.
They definitely, this is Bravo Team and the Inpatient maybe didn't quite get the reception that Tumble and Rush of Blood did.
That's true.
So let's not go down that rabbit hole completely. Yeah. Instead, let's move along. And this game was released January 23rd, 2018 for $39.99.
Woo! And it's a prequel to Until Dawn.
It was. It is.
Yes, that's set about 50 years before the events of that game.
Right, and it takes place mostly in the Blackwood Sanatorium.
Yep.
Blackwood Sanatorium and Hotel.
Right.
It's an interesting combination.
Well, the 20s were an interesting time, so
let's grab a hotel. Honey, what do you think about this one here that's attached to the sanatorium?
Yeah. Well, I kind of went down this rat hole of doing research for this episode, looking into sanatoriums and things like, and actually stuff like that kind of happened all the time. You would create like a spa or a hotel, and they're like, oh, okay, it's spa, it's wellness. All right, so let's take some, just rich people with new healthcare, and let's take these other people. And eventually it turns into like, oh, now it's just a straight up insane asylum.
Okay.
That's actually not, that is not an unusual thing to happen.
Okay.
There was one I was reading about a asylum that actually started as a children's school. And then eventually, over like 80 years, turned into one of the worst run, horrific insane asylums in the country.
This sounds like a Nightmare on Elm Street chapter.
Yeah.
All right. So let's. Man, this is gonna be a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
What kind of game is this?
It's I'd say it's a playable novel more than anything else, really.
Okay.
Yeah. It's there's an actual term for that, but it's basically choose your own adventure. I hesitate to call it an adventure game because it's not like a point and click. You need to find things. You just kind of travel on and you make choices.
Yeah,
and see how it plays out.
I would definitely say it's a first person narrative driven.
Yeah.
And they're really going for the choose your own adventure vein.
Yes.
In fact, half of what you're doing in this game, I'd say a good percentage of what you're doing in this game, is just answering questions.
Yeah.
Which are also your choices. And
right.
you can do that in two different ways. You can click a button,
or you can talk.
Now, I played through this game once. And I was just pushing the button. I was like, well, people ask you a question and two options show up on the scrin.
Yes.
This one or this one. And you can hit, this
two
button
options.
or this button. That's it. Yeah, there are only two options. There's no real dialogue trees.
Nope.
In fact, very seldom do your answers trigger a different response from the person who's asking you them.
Right.
But instead of just clicking a button, you can actually say the lines, which on my second playthrough, I was like, I'm going to get into this game.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to be this character. And for the most part, it works.
Okay.
And when I say for the most part, I mean, it's awesome when it works on the first try.
Yes.
And then sometimes you say a line 3 times and it doesn't work at all. And you're like, okay, that kind of ruins it.
Yeah. I have a tendency, I guess, to mumble when I'm not paying attention or not concentrating on it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give the game a little bit of slack there.
Didn't quite work as
because I'd be sitting there, okay, sure, let's do that. Okay, sure, let's do that, and then it'll work just fine.
Yeah.
But as far as like helping to get into character, I saw a lot of reviews that said, "Oh, it really helps you buy into the character." It's like, well, no,
as much as you're willing to do it, and I feel like
I guess,
man, I really wanted to do our best to stay away from our judgment on this game right away.
Well, we can keep plowing through then, so you can talk to it.
Okay.
So one of the first choices you get is you get to choose your gender and skin tone.
Yep.
So +1 for that.
Yeah.
So you can actually very inclusive. You can be whoever you want.
This game strives for immersion. It strives for you to. Its goal is for you to become this character. And so if you want to be a white female or a Native American male or an African American male, whatever you want to do, you choose from a wide range of skin colors and male or female. A little bit disappointed I can't be trans. A little bit sad. I'm like, if you're gonna do it, why not just give me the option?
But if you're...
I'm kidding.
I was going to say, if you're a male playing the game and you're playing a female character, by default, aren't you being trans?
I'm okay. Yep. Okay. I mean, absolutely. I'm not as politically correct as all that. I like as many options as possible.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm whenever I play a game, I want to be me.
Okay.
I want to be as close to me as possible because I want to be the character.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm boring. I pick white dude.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, here I am. I'm a boring white dude. Let's play the game. And I got to say that one of the very first things it does in the game, you're sitting there and the doctor's leaning in at you.
Yes.
And one of the I'm going to go way off track.
Sure.
One of the complaints I keep seeing about this game is that the character models are like disproportionate.
Yeah.
And but the fact is this is one of the only games I've ever played where like you're sitting in a wheelchair or you're confined to a chair and the characters are leaning in and talking to you.
Yeah.
And so when people are leaning in and talking to you, they look like they have bigger heads, because their head proportionately, like prospectively, is going to look bigger because the rest of their body is further away from you.
I don't think it's just that. Like one thing I noticed with the character models, like when you get those close-up looks, they look amazing. Like the skin tone, the complexion, it looks so real and fantastic. But then the actual animation and the moving is way into the uncanny valley.
Okay.
And I don't know. It gets to that, especially when he's leaning in like that right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So remember Summer Lesson?
Yeah.
Bring us back there. When she leaned in, it was like, oh, there's really a person there.
I liked when she leaned in.
Yeah. But it felt, it was like, oh, that's really happening.
Yeah.
And these characters, I think, I haven't quite put my place on it, but I think because they look so realistic, they feel less present.
Okay.
Where she was a little more cartoony, they decided not totally, but it's certainly not 100% human.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just because when he leaned in, I didn't get that same like, oh, that's a real person that I have in that, or even oh my gosh, the game that makes everyone sick, the horror game.
Here They Lie.
Here They Lie.
Yeah.
Here They Lie when you have character interactions there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say that that girl that you see at the very beginning of Here They Lie.
Yeah.
When she leans in. That was one of my earliest VR experiences, and then I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I'm like, invasion of personal space here. I was like,
right.
This feels like something.
I didn't get. Now, maybe that's because at this point we're sort of experiencing. Like, did you get that? I guess
I can't say I did.
Yeah, okay.
I can't say I did. And in fact, I think so. Getting back to what I was going to talk about before the character models is that most of this game takes place in like this sepia toned world. Right, where it's like whenever you see like old timey pictures, it's like they're sepia tone, right? Because they hadn't have developed color photographs and stuff, and the fading or whatever. So, and you just kind of like end up in this sepia tone world, and at the beginning you're being pushed around in a wheelchair.
Yes,
and I was like, this is brilliant. I was like, this is great because a lot of people get motion sickness in VR, and I was like, what a great way, what a great vehicle to put someone in where you can be like, okay, now you're getting pushed around,
you
can look around, everything's great, and I was like, what a great vehicle to allow people to explore this place, and but also from the comfort of being a seated position. And bam, you can just like kind of push some buttons, and we're gonna move around, and that's not what happened at all. In fact, you never get to control yourself from the wheelchair. I really, really, really thought.
Oh, I saw you would be able to.
I thought this was going to be a wheelchair game, Whereas like this is your vehicle of transportation, and this is going to alleviate motion sickness for everyone because everyone's going to be playing from a seated position, and here is the way you're moving. It's going to feel totally natural.
Yeah, no, it's just an exposition delivery system.
It is really. Yep. It is really, and I think most of the game is an exposition delivery system. Yeah,
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I want to be right up front with that. Like if as you maybe we might get some criticism of this later. Yeah. If you're thinking, oh, we don't like this game because we don't like story-driven games, that is 100% opposite of the truth.
No, I grew up playing only story-driven games. I didn't even care about shooting people and stuff when I was a kid.
So that's not the issue here, and it's not the fact that it's just exposition. That's fine. Yep. Although it gives me a little note. That first time you're going down the hallway and you see Suzanne the nurse walk by.
Yeah.
The character modeling and animation is so wonky. I thought something was wrong with her, like horror movie style. Like I thought she was just kind of like some sort of zombified. Like, oh, we're starting with the monsters already. Okay. Like, oh no, it's just.
That's interesting you say that because I played through the game again for this episode, and I didn't notice that.
Okay.
I did notice like there is.
And she's supposed to be ignoring the orderly who's pushing you along, which I get, but it seemed like, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, no, there's some of the characters are certainly, there's more attention given to some characters than others.
Yeah.
And I think she is one of them that there was less attention given to.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out too on the plus side, so you mentioned kind of the coloring, but the details in the space, it's a really well imagined space. It looks fantastic. It looks like a creepy old hospital. And actually, the audio I want to point out. There's a difference between stereo audio and binaural audio.
Yeah.
This game uses binaural audio, which means you need to wear headphones when you wear this, and you get a full sense of space. Now, binaural audio just means instead of just having two channels they record, they actually have the microphones set up where on a human head where your ears would be. So not only are you picking up, oh, this is left, this is the right, you're getting total spatial cues from around everywhere. Surround sound is kind of in that same neighborhood, but it definitely helps add to the sense of actually being in a place.
And in jumping ahead to my favorite part of this game, is every time you go to bed, every time you go to sleep,
which you do a lot.
You leave sepia tone world and you enter green nightmare world. And green nightmare world is the reason I played this game because I like scary games.
Yeah.
And so, man, oh man, put your headphones in and turn them up because, I had forgotten how scary this game can be. Like in a lot of it has to do with the audio. So you're pretty safe. You're pretty safe in sepia tone world, but in green nightmare world, you're never safe. Right? You're like walking down a hallway. You're hearing voices, and they're coming from all around you. The one weird thing I kept finding, I had to keep looking at my feet because I'd be walking, and then I'd stop, and then I'd hear another footstep, like one extra footstep.
Oh, okay.
And I'd go, wait, I stopped walking. Is there somebody behind me? And I'd have to look down at my feet and go, oh no, my right foot's just a little slow, I guess.
Right. Or was it just, there's some object collision issues, so I found my hands bumping into stuff all the time.
There's also that, but this was just straight walking down the middle of a hallway with nothing around me.
Oh,
I was like, it always sounds like there's an extra footstep, and so when I'm walking, I was like, I know it wasn't. This is not an intentional scare,
right?
But man, it definitely scared me. But this is the kind of stuff. It's like I was just wearing little earbuds, and holy crap, the sound was so intense, and whenever they give you a jump scare, man, they drive that jump scare home with some. I mean, just like an explosion in your ears. This is phenomenal. Like I love if the whole game was Green Nightmare World, this would be a 1 hands down.
Okay.
Let's talk about controls. Since you mentioned the hand collision detection, did you play this with the DualShock 4 or the Move controllers, sir?
I was a good little reviewer, and I tried it with both. And immediately, as soon as I did the DualShock, I was like, no, this is broken. Then I grabbed the Move. It's like, oh, these aren't great either.
So each one has an advantage, and each one has a disadvantage.
Yes.
The DualShock 4 it's so much easier just to walk around and turn.
That's true.
It's like, here's your analog sticks.
Yep.
Go to it. You know how to do this. But then you don't quite have that interaction with the world.
Right. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because there's not that much to interact with.
There's actually very little to do in the game. Like there are very few buttons that do anything. There's no inventory management. There's no inventory.
Yep.
All you're doing is walking and grabbing things.
If you like knocking over chess pieces, though, have I got a game for you?
Boy, oh boy. At the beginning, I was like picking one up and throwing it, and picking another one up and throwing it, and then I was just like closed my hand and just
that's pretty
knocked them all off the table.
Well, that's actually when I decided to switch from the DS DualShock 4, because I'm sitting there with that like, oh, chess pieces. Okay, well, you've used the move controller for this.
Game over.
Because the chess pieces are there in that first room. Like the first time you get to interact, it's like, oh, I'm going to need fine control in this game, so I'm going to go to the move controllers.
Yep.
And no.
And as you found out with the move controllers, you got your wacky, waveable, inflatable arm flying 2-man controls. Man, it really feels like you have octopus arms. Like, like very, very like...
Yeah, they're kind of attached at your elbows. Yeah. No matter how you move your arms.
It does not feel one-to-one. My hands always felt like they were like a few inches away from where they should be, and they just weren't moving the way I wanted them to.
And if you're wondering if Supermassive Games have solved the VR developers' #1 weakness, doors, they have not.
I mean, if you really want to... If you're really patient and you walk up to a door and you go, come on.
Oh wait, it made a sound. I must be holding it now.
And then you can turn the handle and go.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You still have
totally works.
Throw your hand at it, turn, and then.
Yeah, it totally works. It's just not seamless.
And this is one I'm not going to give too much crap for Supermassive, because I don't know what it is. There's not a single developer who has figured out how to use a door.
Yeah.
I mean, in an actual functional way. I mean, some games have like, okay, just click the button and click another button and it'll just open automatically. But just the walk up, turn a knob, and push or pull.
Yeah, so that's weird that you say that. I'm trying to think of any game that... The what?
I was gonna say, right? There's
nothing.
Yeah,
nothing. I'm totally happy in VR walking up and pushing X, because that at least does the trick.
Right.
You shouldn't have to think about opening a door.
I would love Reggie. We saw him at the live stream last weekend. Like, is there like an issue? Do you guys, like, developers get around together and discuss like the door problem? Is there like Reddit/doors? There's
like TED Talks about doors.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right. That's getting off track.
All right. So here's the deal. The move controllers make it very difficult to walk, but they give you arms.
Yes.
But they're not good arms.
Right.
Walking around this game is a pain in the butt. That's why I'd actually prefer to... I don't know if I actually want to say this. I prefer to use a DualShock 4 because most of what you're doing is walking.
Yes.
And so if most of what you're doing is walking, give me an analog stick. Because the move controllers, on your left hand, you're pushing the move button to walk forward. Now, unlike every other VR game out now, when you push the move button and do this, you still just walk straight forward. Right? Usually you hit the button and you can kind of like do this to go left and do this to go right. No, now you got to use the other hand and you got to hold the move button down and like make a gesture to the right to turn right. And then it's a smooth turn to the right. You know what happens almost every other time that I turn in this game?
What?
I end up turning around on accident. Because
you're
supposed to do this on this hand to turn around.
It's a 180 flip.
And somehow, when I push the button down and do this to turn right, I turn right and then I turn around.
It's a little more. You just have to kind of turn the controller.
Oh, so maybe my sweeping gesture is too much.
Yeah, I think that might have been it, because I was just... I mean,
it wasn't flipping you around.
No.
All right, good.
To me, to get the reverse, I really had to kind of... Yeah, but there's no quick just turn around. There's no button. There's no way, as far as I know, to back up.
No.
To just like, I'm standing here, I just want to back away from that.
Right, which you can do with the DualShock 4.
Right, yeah. You got to turn around, walk a couple steps, and turn back, which is important because there are memories, these things that you kind of, the collectibles of the game, that they're either highlighted white or they get a little white sparkling thing on them. You got to walk up to them at just the right distance. If you get too close, they won't trigger. Yeah. And if you're too far away, they won't trigger. So you
have to stare at them.
Yeah, so I very often find myself, I'm too close to that. So I've got to back up. Well, I can't back up. I've got to turn around, take 2 steps, then turn around and sneak up to it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other thing you're doing. You're walking around and then you're staring at these collectible memories. But they're not like... We shouldn't call them collectibles because I feel like they're not really hidden.
The game calls them collectibles.
Oh, well then I guess we'll call them collectibles. But they're not hidden.
No.
Like they're glowing from a distance.
Well, you can miss them.
You can.
Yeah, there's a few like that are hard to find that you have to like not follow the main path, go into a room.
Okay.
But the majority of them are fairly easy to find, but there are some that are pretty difficult.
Okay. I will totally give that to you. But we're going to come back to it as well.
Okay.
How long did it take you to beat this?
My first playthrough, I'd say maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
I
think 2 hours, and that was with like, hey, I'm going to go off the beaten path and explore as much as possible. I get 2 hours every playthrough.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the problem is there's not too... If you just follow the plot along, there really isn't much variation in the length of time.
No.
Because you can't do it faster. You can only go slower.
Yeah. So we're saying, Des, here's a $40 game.
Yep.
That is 2 hours long. Mm-hmm. What's the deal? What's going on here?
Well, the way they pitch it and the positive reviews I read about it say there's a lot of gameplay because you get to go through and play it again and make different choices and get a different story.
So here's where we need to really start talking about the downfalls of this game.
Yeah. So the goals of this game are you have this, immersive situation, which the audio and the visual, absolutely, they nailed that. Yep. Looks fantastic. Little character model issues. I mean, I beat up on it a little bit, but it's really not enough to be game breaking. It's just, hey.
Yeah. The environments look really nice.
The environment looks great.
Audio
is great.
I will say, there's not a whole lot to explore. There's you're given like a couple hallways, a couple rooms, and like a different section later in the game, and that's kind of it. It's like there's not a whole lot of variety in your 2 hours.
No, which makes sense because you're stuck in this one building. So, and then the goal, and the idea of the game is like, you make these choices and you get this totally different adventure. That doesn't seem to be the case.
It doesn't. What drives me insane about this game is that here I am. I finished it once and I was like, wow, that was kind of boring. Like, in fact, like the entire first hour is like, other than like, I think in the first hour you get 2 of those green nightmares, which I loved. But again, they're short, and like you're like there's not enough of that for like if this is going to be considered a horror game. I don't know if that's what we're calling it, but it's October month, so
that's what they call it.
We're calling it that. Yeah. There's not enough of that to make it like awesome for horror fans. And in fact, most of that first hour is answering seemingly inconsequential questions, and you're sometimes even the two responses they give you are almost not different at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so if your goal is to replay this for a different storyline, you almost have to write down the answers you gave the first time, because it's not like I was like, I'm going to be mean this time through and I'm going to be nice this time through. Right. Some of the answers are just like, it seems so meaningless.
My example of this is going back to the very first choice you make, your gender and skin color.
Yep.
Now, look, I don't want to bang on about this. I'm not like Mr. Gender Studies guy, but let's just say the experience of a black woman involuntarily in an insane asylum in 1952 should be significantly different than the experience of a white male.
You would think so.
And that's what I did. My first time through, I did me. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to put the slider all the way to the right, or all the way to the right. As dark as my skin can be, I'm going to be female. Let's do this. I counted 2 interactions that were slightly different, and it's just when the guy was asking you your advice on how he can date this girl. And it wasn't that he wasn't asking you advice, he just phrased it slightly differently.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get a roommate in your cell, and your roommate changes gender.
Yep. That's it.
And I'm not saying, again, this doesn't have to be a 2-hour exposure of what it was like to be a woman in 1952.
Nope.
But do something with that. Yeah. Like, you made me make that choice, and you're saying, every one of your choices, like, and they even say it in the copy in the game, like the littlest choice can make the biggest difference. Like, that's a damn big choice.
It's a big choice.
Right.
It's a huge choice. And then even the decisions you make in the game that affect the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you played through this game once and you're like, man, I'm curious to know what the other outcomes are.
Yeah.
There's a 13-minute video on YouTube. Somebody made a 13-minute video on YouTube showing all the different outcomes. And I got to tell you, I watched that today. And what that does is it just gives you the different endings.
Right.
You don't have to watch the first hour and a half that's almost identical. And for 13 minutes, I was kind of bored.
Yeah,
these are not exciting. I mean, there's a couple things that are kind of cool, but these are not overall exciting outcomes. These are not worth playing an entire hour and 45 minutes to see the last 5 minutes of something a little bit different.
Yeah, the biggest problem is it's not that there are no differences. Don't
they're definitely
don't misunderstood. But the story beats are exactly the same. I don't want to. I'm not going to say exactly what they are, but you go to place X and do Y. You go to place Z and do A, and you hit the same story beats. Maybe the people who are with you are different. Maybe your role in the situation is slightly different, but the dialogue is very similar. And again, it's not like, okay, I'm going to do this. Let's say there's a supermarket involved. There isn't. But let's say if I make this choice, I go to the supermarket. But if I don't go to the supermarket. It's like, no matter what you do, you're going to the supermarket. Yep. What you do there might change a little bit, but it's not, let's go back to choose your own adventure books. Right? Yeah. You make a choice there. Those are binary choices. And you're going to end up with a totally different ending. Yep. And this is a technology that is, thousands of years old, paper books. Brings me to like my biggest issue. Until Dawn had its criticisms, but one thing you could say was there was a lot of there was a deep story. Yep. It actually won a Guinness World Record for longest voice script for a video game.
I didn't know that.
Over 1,000 pages.
Wow.
Say what else you want about the game. That was an in-depth story.
Yeah.
Rush of Blood. Right out of the gate, they nailed a whole bunch of VR movement mechanics and moving and exploring the space and shooting and aiming. That was fantastic. You hear, hey, they're going to get together. They're going to make a prequel, taking what they've learned from Until Dawn and what they've learned from VR, putting together one game. This should have been a slam dunk.
Yeah.
I
feel like you should be rating this right now.
Yeah.
You want to rate this game?
I guess if we're
we're
there already. Sure.
Let's get there.
All right. So our ratings scale is pretty simple to understand. 1 is you have to buy this. It is the best of what VR has to offer. If you have a PSVR, this needs to be in your library. Just go pick it up. 2 is if it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on sale at a decent amount, go ahead, pick it up. You know what? You're probably going to like it. And 3 is no. Do not buy this game. Do not support these people. We cannot let friends don't let friends buy crap. That's basically it.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
What we didn't talk about was that there were the point of this show, of course, is to see if the game's been given any love since launch. See what's changed.
Yes.
Right. And I gotta say, my very first playthrough, I think I did a live stream the second it launched, and by halfway through, the positioning tracking for the head tracking was so bad that it kept turning me to the side, and so by halfway through the game I was sitting sideways on my couch to face forwards. It was awful. Ooh. So that's been fixed.
All right.
Right? So there's been 2 patches, and I think both of the patch notes, patch 1.01, patch 1.02, both say the same thing. Something about bug fixes or gameplay improvements or whatever. Okay. There was some even worse issues with the move hands and stuff before.
I did have when I switched to the move, I went through and played the wheelchair thing again. I had a bug where my hand came free.
Oh, whoa! And
I'm in the wheelchair, and there's actually my hand here, and there's the other one that's actually still on the wheelchair.
So apparently, we need one more fix. It's not quite over, So those are some minor things that they fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the head tracking, thank goodness. But something that's been fixed since release is the price tag.
Okay.
This was a $40 game at launch.
Yeah.
And I think when you say, hey, here's a 2-hour game that is meant to be replayed but doesn't feel like it has a lot of replayability, $40 is asking a lot. You go, I played this once for 2 hours and I don't actually want to play it again.
Yeah.
That's the biggest downfall here. And since January, the game has now been cut in half price wise. It's now a $20 game, and I'm like, this right here, this 1 point specifically, because people always say a bad game is a bad game, doesn't matter the price. I'm like, but a average game is more valuable at a better price.
Yeah,
right.
I can see that. Yeah,
and there are moments in this game that speak to the greatness I think that Supermassive was going for. All of the green sections, all of the hey, just you're not locked in your cell anymore. Go and explore this place, and man, we're gonna scare the crap out of you at least a few times. I know Desert doesn't get scared by things the way I am. I'm a big scaredy cat, and he's like a I don't know.
Just non-human. Sorry.
Non-human. We'll go with that.
I have no emotions as far as fear goes.
and so those moments, I was like, holy crap! Like these moments almost make my 2-hour playthrough worthwhile. And at $20, it's a much, much better value than $40. Now, using our scale for that conversation, I'm giving this a 2 because at $20, it's still asking a little bit too much.
Okay,
but if you can get it for $10, right? If you can get the new price on sale, then and you're okay with everything we said so far. Like you're like, okay, the story's not going to be awesome, but like what horror movie has a good story? Is it worth it for the few awesome jump scares? And there's one in particular that I will remember forever. And
is it the first?
It's the diorama.
Okay.
That for some reason I was like, I don't want to turn around. So right. So there's a couple awesome moments in this game, but for $20, I'm still like, I don't feel comfortable recommending this to anybody. I said in my original review, this is going to go down as a cult classic. There are going to be a few people that are hardcore about this game that are like Until Dawn fans that like are going to love the connections to the original game.
Okay.
And I think that's
throwing cockroaches at the screen when they play it together.
Sure. Maybe, right? And so I think there's a small demographic of people who are going to really love this.
Yeah.
But that's a very small demographic for most of our audience. I'm like, if you can get this for like $10, $12, $13, that's about the price point we're looking at here. It's worth one trip to the movie theater. Because for most people, you're not going to want to play this again. So make sure that your 2 hours is worth the price you're willing to pay, and that's why I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah, see, I try to reserve my 3s for games where I feel like the developers didn't care at all, or put like the least amount of effort, or it's a cash grab. It's just something where like we want to grab them and smack them. And there's nothing about this game that says to me that nobody cared about this. There's a lot of attention, a lot of love put into this game, so I don't want to give it a 3. I'm going to echo, a lot of what Brian said. I think $40 was ludicrous. $20, if you really, really love horror or you're really invested into the Until Dawn series, okay. If you get it on sale for less than that, I'm getting a little better on it. But I think the biggest sin that this game commits is it is a game that says to get the most out of this, you need to replay it multiple times. Yeah. But as you said, if it's not enjoyable to play it, like I got it through the first time and I wasn't like, oh, wow, what a neat resolution to the story. It's like, oh, thank God it's over.
Yeah, kind of.
And I was like, oh, all right. Yeah. And then, I even texted Brian, like, how many times do I have to play this? This is more than just Des doesn't like horror games. Yeah. One thing I liked about this game was the fact it doesn't rely on just jump scares. It's trying to set up a sense of dread. Like, I like when the environment cultivates this sense of foreboding doom and like, I'm a bigger fan of environmental horror than boo, and I was excited about that. Like, this game, that's what this is going to do. We saw the original trailer or the I guess playable demo or whatever you want to call it, where I was like, okay, maybe I can, but it doesn't deliver on that. So I'm gonna give it a 2, but with a big old asterisk. If you don't like horror, you're absolutely not gonna like this game. Yeah. If you do like horror, then maybe pick up when it goes on sale. But I think you're being generous when you say it's going to be a cult classic. There's maybe the Until Dawn fanboys might like it, but
I think there are some moments, some of the endings that actually tie it into the original Until Dawn.
Oh yeah, yep.
I was like, oh, my people are going to really like this. And the fact that I liked Until Dawn, I don't think as much as the rest of you.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's cool that they managed to tie it in, but it's not enough. It's not enough. This game needed to be so much more for it to be a 1. And there was some of the things just seem so obvious to me that, like, when you're striving so hard for immersion, and you're like, this is going to, you even in the store, if you go to the PlayStation store and read the description, they're like, you are this character, you are making the decisions, you're dramatically going to change the outcome of the game. I think they used all those words. But then one of the first things that happens to you, you're strapped to a chair, and the doctor comes up to you and he injects you in the leg. With a syringe, right? But like the needle goes in, your leg doesn't react, and your leg is actually still kind of doing this movement back and forth, like to make it look natural, but while the needle's not going back and forth. And I'm like, okay, so this is one of the first things that happens to you in the game, and it's immersion breaking, right? I'm like a little jolt to my leg, to make my character react to it, and then like not move while the needle's stuck in it. These little things definitely could have helped, and this is just in the first few minutes.
Right.
I was like, oh, there's a little bit of a warning sign here.
Yeah, it's it's like the copywriters for the descriptions didn't actually ever play the game. It's just, the developers like, oh, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And when they first like pitched the idea, it's like, oh great, we're gonna go with that. And then 8 to 12 months later, when they had the finished product, like, we don't need to show the final game to the copywriters, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, there were some very big missed opportunities here.
Yeah, I was really hoping for the best. Like I said, their pedigree, obviously with this, I guess we can call it franchise at this point. There's 3 games.
Yeah, for sure.
Has been great so far. I mean, the first one delivered on exactly what it said it was going to do. The second one, Rush of Blood,
still one of our favorites.
Still, absolutely one of my favorite games. But yeah, it's just something, a swing and a miss. Yeah, that's all I can say.
So again, if you have a few bucks laying around next time it goes on sale, by all means pick it up. Yep. If you are the type of person that Des and I are describing, but you're not going to be horribly disappointed if you skip this one.
Yeah.
So listen, a couple things we want to say just before we head off.
A little housekeeping.
Housekeeping. We never asked for money on this show. The only time we ever ask for money is on PSVR Gamescast Live. But if you're not a Patreon supporter, we would really appreciate your support. For just $1 or more a month, you can go to patreon.com/withoutparolegames, and we give you MP3s of our podcast every week, and we give you a weekly show. It's usually Des and I filming after we film this show.
Yep.
It's like 20 minutes, called The Litter Box, and we either follow up on something we were talking about on Why We Love, or we just talk about something video game related for like 20-30 minutes every week.
And let's be honest, if you've made it this far, you like what we do. And that's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. And if you want us to keep doing what we like and keep doing this, and I mean, we like doing this, and let's be honest, we probably keep doing it anyways.
Probably.
But if you like what we're doing and you want to support it, man, a $1 a month, that's not a whole lot. I mean, and we've got 22,000, 23,000
something like that
subscribers.
Yeah.
Like if 1/4 of those people gave us, but you know what? Even if every single person who watches this video, was a Patreon supporter, that'd be amazing.
It would make a world of difference to us, and I know so many people out there are like, my dollar's not going to make a difference. Right. But it's like Save the Children, man. If you get like 1 million people doing it, it makes a whole lot of difference.
Oh my, if we had 1 million Patreon subscribers?
Oh my God. So anyway, but getting back on track here, it's October month.
Yep.
It is my favorite month. We're going to talk about scary games for the rest of the month. Woo-hoo. I'm so excited because we got some good ones coming up. But once that's over, man, we're already talking about what we're doing after October because so many good games are coming out.
There's some, we're an embarrassment of riches right now.
Exactly. It's never been a better time to be a PlayStation VR gamer. But we still want to know. While we're creating our list of games that we want to talk about in November and beyond, we want your input. So let us know in the comments what else you want us to talk about. Yes, we know you want us to do with Werewolves Within. You tell us every week. We love you. One of these days, we promise.
Yes.
All right, for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Des.
And we'll see you next week.